Oh, hello. Your girl Davielle is here, okay? And for those that don't know me, yes, I'm Davielle. Thank you for being here. And if you do know me, I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you for being back, okay? You were a real one. I appreciate you. Let's talk though. I'm not even gonna waste no time. I'm not coming at you, but I'm gonna say it straight. A lot of us be like, why do I have to talk about my trauma all the time? Why do I have to keep talking about it? Oh my gosh, I was one of those people, right? So I'm coming at me too, right? Why do we always have to talk about the trauma? Why do we have to talk about it? I don't want to talk about it. I just want to talk to my therapist. I just want to, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things I hear out there, and I hear you. You're allowed, right? I respect it. But let me give you a different perspective, right? Let's talk about it, because a lot of us go through things and we keep it a secret. I was one of those. I kept it a secret for like 20 years, my sexual abuse, right? And I've talked about it all throughout this channel, okay? So if you go to my past videos, you will hear my story, and I speak very, very vividly about it, and I can even smile when I talk about it because I'm empowered through my story. I handled myself through my story, and I did what I needed to do, and there are things that I could have done better, of course, right? But one thing I'll say is your trauma doesn't just stop there. Your trauma doesn't just stop at your trauma. Like, there's so many other areas of your life that's affected by the things that you go through, by the things that we go through, right? And so let me give you a very vivid example to kind of paint the picture on what I'm talking about today. So I went through sexual abuse. What is that? Oh, it's just grass. I'm sitting on the grass enjoying, right? Even though they said stay off the grass, I'm like, absolutely not. Anyway, so I went through sexual trauma, sexual abuse, whatever you want to call it, as a child when I was 8 years old into 11 years old. And I kept it a secret. I was like, anyway, this is not important. Then I finally started to talk about it and all that. And I thought, okay, I talked about it once or twice. I'm good. Why do I need to talk about it more? Like, I'm good. I was kind of annoyed with my divine team because they would give me so many signs about the trauma. I'm talking, if I'm watching a movie, all of a sudden they have to talk about trauma. There's something online saying you have something to say. Get your secret out. Talk about it. I'm like, I already talked about it. What? Why? Why don't you keep going? So I asked God, why do I have to keep doing it, right? I got the answer. Constantly, actually. The answer kept coming up because you know what? My trauma caused so much in my life. It's more than just the story itself. It's the aftermath. It's the effect that it had on me. I'm talking, well, before I get into the story I wanted to get into, I'm gonna give you quick examples. So when I was now in middle school into high school, middle school more, all my friends were having sex, and we're talking about sex at least, and I had to pretend like I didn't know. So I had to pretend like I was a virgin. I had to pretend like I had no clue what they were talking about, so now there's trauma with my friends because I'm lying to my friends about my truth, right? And then there's, being at home with my mother. The trauma actually affected me and my mother's relationship, and how a mother-daughter bond can go. It was completely tarnished because we didn't know how to connect anymore. It literally destroyed what great relationship I started to have with my mother. And it was uncomfortable. We started to nitpick and fight and all that. And like I said, I've gone to detail with that, all that stuff, right? It affected my confidence, just walking around feeling a little insecure, feeling like, do people know my secret? It's just this thing that weighs over you. And so those are more obvious things that it affected, but let's talk about the things that I didn't actually know was affecting. So one day, me and my sister were going through a homeless journey, and we were in and out of hotels like crazy. And if we were in a hotel, we were like on a bench or something. It was tough. Like, I always talk about it because it's part of my story, and it didn't happen that long ago. So she would wake up sometimes at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, because she just couldn't sleep. And she would do whatever she does, whether it's writing, whether it's doing whatever she needs to do, but she's not making noise really. And one day, no, a few times, I would wake up and I'm like, why are you awake? What's your problem? Like, why are you awake? Randomly. Like, I would just get aggravated that she was up. And she would just look at me like, because I couldn't sleep, so I'm up. Ow, what did I just do? Okay, I don't know. This is old mascara. I don't care. But she was like, I can't sleep, so I'm up. I'm just getting some work done. I'm doing me. It's like, okay. And it was so weird to me. And she would continue to wake up in the middle of the night constantly. And there was one night in particular, I was like, what the fuck? Why are you up? What is your problem? And so in the morning, she confronted me. She's like, hey, look, why is it a problem that I'm up? Like, I know we don't have our own room and we're going through some things, but like, I didn't think it was a big deal that I could be awake in the middle of the night. Like, what's the problem? I was just like, oh, I didn't think it was a problem. I was just wondering why. And she's like, no, like you get really aggravated and we've been on great terms. So I just want to check in. Is everything okay? And while we're talking, I start to get emotional. And I'm like, oh, I think it's because during my sexual abuse, I would have this man come into my room at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and wake me up. And I'd be alert. Like I'm a light sleeper now because of what happened to me so long ago. I'm always up, unless I'm extremely tired. I'm a very light sleeper. I can wake up at the drop of a dime. Anything happens, any, noise, I'm like up. I'm like, what's going on? I'm alert. And especially when someone's awake and I'm asleep, what are you doing? And mind you, I don't think my sister's going to touch me. Nothing like that. It's just this reaction. It was such a natural reaction for me to look at her crazy because I'm like, I feel defensive. I'm sleeping. Why are you up? And I had to recognize, oh, my trauma really caused me to feel uncomfortable when people are awake, especially during the middle of the night, because that was the main time that he would come into my room. I would have school the next day. I would have whatever. And it affected me. It affected me deeply that my sister couldn't be awake. And I had to be upset that she was awake. Like, huh? And I had to rectify that. I was like, oh, shoot, I never knew that affected me. And I actually was in a relationship before where the man would do the same thing. He wouldn't sleep at night and I would get so aggravated. I'm like, what are you doing? What the fuck? And it's like, no, Danielle, they have the right to be awake. And so I had to take a moment and be like, oh, I'm hurt by this and I need to talk it out. And so I talked it out with my sister. I'm like, yeah, and I had to vent about it more. Mind you, I thought I vented about it already enough, but I was like, yeah, that affected me. It really affected my sleep. It made me uncomfortable with people around. And now I would be up. I always have to be up to make sure I'm good, right? Even when I don't think I'm in harm's way, even when I trust my sister deeply. And I promise you, after we had a deep talk about it and I cried about it, I stopped being bothered. I stopped. Every time she would wake up, I'd look at her, I'd smile, and I'd go back to sleep. And it was just unintentional. It was subconscious, unconscious. You know what I mean? Like, I just naturally was like, oh, hey, and it'd be fine because I let that out. There's so many parts of our life that are affected by deep things. And it doesn't have to be just sexual abuse, right? You might be like, well, I didn't go through anything that big of a deal. But sometimes it's someone yelling at you for something you think you're confident in. And now that they yelled at you, you're like, well, damn, can I do anything right? And now you're doubting everything that you do. And it is trauma because a lot of times we can pinpoint that moment that made us feel so uncomfortable, that moment that really penetrated our heart deeply. And it resonates so clearly that moment in time was the thing that effed us up, or the thing that made us feel so low or so overwhelmed or just unconsciously like nervous. Even when we think, oh, it wasn't a big deal, it affected you, and it affects different areas of your life. Even with me, what I went through, there were dreams I was having of the situation and different forms of the situation happening, and trusting people was difficult. And, even the situation I was in, it caused me to always be in a toxic relationship low key because it would be a 3-way situation. And what I went through, it was basically, my mom's boyfriend and me, and he's coming in my room while being with her and she's pregnant and all this stuff. And it just hit deeply. It was just like, whoa. This doesn't just stop here. When you put someone through something or when you go through something, it affects different areas of your life. And so now I can't build connections with people because I'm starting off on a lie. I'm starting off, they're like, oh, have you had sex? Have you this? Have you that? And I'm just like, no, or everything's good. Or I'm saying everything's good with me, my mom. Meanwhile, I'm hurt by her and I'm crying all the time. My friends would see me crying and I just can't explain it. And so it's a lack of connection because I can't really vent because I'm sworn to secrecy. And of course, that was a decision. I could have just spoke up, but it's a complicated situation. And so I say all this to say, trauma needs to be talked about in different ways, shapes, and form. Even the old people, when they continue, older people, the old folks, when they keep telling a story over and over and over again, that's them literally venting and seeing different perspectives and learning even from themselves and their own story. It's like, wow, that really happened to me. And seeing it and saying it in different perspectives help you to open up to different thought processes, different ways of moving through it. You know what I mean? Like, even now when I talk about my sexual abuse, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about this because I want other people to feel empowered through it. There was a time where I was talking about it and I was shaking, nervous. And to see my evolution is so beautiful. And so I'm not gonna stop talking about it, actually. And there's a lot of things that I've endured that's outside of sexual abuse that, still affects me till this day. Even, relationships I've been in and the things that they've said to me, even my weight, and my family would criticize my weight so much. And so finally, after telling the story so many times, I'm in a much better place, but there was a point where my weight would be the topic. Like, I would look at myself in the mirror and just replay what they say to me over and over again. And I had to work through that. I had to really be like, nah, I'm not going outside like this. I look good. I am sexy. And I am allowed to gain some weight. I am allowed to slim down. Even when I would slim down, they're like, oh, you look too skinny. It's just like, you can't make people happy, right? And that can affect you. And so I know people throw the trauma word around a lot, but it's because it's real and it's true. And a lot of things affect us way deeper than we give credit. And I get why. We don't want to feel it again. We don't want to go through it again. We don't want to relive it. But the truth is, we do want to relive it, because the more you avoid it, the more it's going to replay in your life. The more you're going to see things show up in ways that are very uncomfortable. Like, even with me, after I went through that, I also had a guy friend that I thought was a good friend of mine, but he ended up liking me, and I would wake up in his bed sometimes like, why the heck am I sleeping with this man? What is going on? It's like my body didn't feel like my body, and it just, all this secrecy, all this just stuff pent up made me act irrationally. And it's just the divine's way, God's way of being like, you want to avoid it? I'm going to keep putting it in your face, because it's time for you to face it. It's time for you to own it. It's time for you to speak your truth and speak it loud and proud. And so, look, this isn't a video to convince you to speak about your trauma. This is a video explaining why you have to talk about it over and over again, and why it's okay to talk about it over and over again. I was going to say it's a privilege, but I mean that. It's a privilege to go through the things that you go through and to watch yourself overcome it. It's beautiful. There's beauty in that, but we're not going to see that until maybe the 20th time that we talk about it, right? Because that's what life is about. And so, yeah, live your cookie cutter life just like I did and keep the secret. Of course you can survive, but are you living? Are you living though? That's how I had to finally see things. And when I finally confronted my mother about what I went through, it didn't go that well. It was the second time I talked to her, there was movement, but not too much. It wasn't until like the fourth time I talked to her, like, that's when things started to really heal and divulge, and the truth starts to come out and all that. And even then, before talking to her, I had to talk online. I talked to my sister. I talked to different people. Oh my gosh, And so, please keep that in mind. Whenever you're like, why do I have to keep talking about it? It's because it's intertwined with your life. It's intertwined with the core of who you are. It is you. And so you don't have to feel ashamed of it. It could hurt, right? But there's ways to overcome that hurt. Start with writing, right? Write it all out. Write in graphic detail what went down. Then write again how it made you feel. Then when you're ready, talk to someone. Then when you're ready, record yourself saying it. Whatever you have to do. But it's important to let it out. Trauma isn't here to be pent up and put in a box and act like it never happened again, because I promise you're going to keep getting reminders. And you're going to tell yourself you put it in the back of your mind and it doesn't exist, but you're going to see yourself lashing out and reacting and not knowing why. And so, yes, keep talking about that trauma. I support that because it saved my life. I'm not going to lie. It absolutely saved my life. And I know it's going to continue to save yours as long as you're open. As long as you're open and ready to deal with it and to face it. And know, I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm just saying there's ways. And so be open to that and watch God work. Watch you start to, out of nowhere, be like, hold up. I feel empowered through this. And it may take time. Everyone's trauma is different, right? But I'm telling you, someone can relate. Someone on this earth, on this planet, can relate to what you went through. And you're not going to know until you speak up. Okay? So I've been having this on my heart for a little while. I recorded a short about it too, a quick little, this is what trauma has caused in my life. So I wanted to give a longer version. Okay, there are different things that are being poked, and there are cycles that we're going to repeat until we really let it off our chest and own it. There's letting it off, and then there's like actually owning, like, whoa, that did happen to me. I don't have to be a victim. I don't have to be this. And if you are a victim, you're a victim, right? Whatever the case may be, own it and watch. Okay, and if it's taking time, that's okay. Be patient with yourself, but at least declare, I'm gonna get this off my chest. Declare it and it's done, and watch. The universe will move for you. Even me, I've cried about some of the videos I've had to post about it. When I had Instagram, I talked about it many times, and it was deep. It was hard. It was worth it. Look at me now, being able to talk about it so freely. So it doesn't end here, okay? I am proud of who I am, and that was a part of my story, and it was necessary for whatever reason. And so I now live with it, but I'm not gonna let it define me or overcome me because it's so pent up in a secret. Now you gonna know. Hi, I'm Davielle, and I went through sexual abuse, and I overcame it. And that's who I am. And some days I'm not gonna talk about it, right? But when it feels right, when it feels natural, it's a natural conversation. I'm not with that little surface level, you know what I mean? Like some people, yes, you can keep it surface, but I like depth. I like depth, I like real. And that's really who I am. And before I didn't know that, so I was very surface level. Now, we gonna get deep. So I'm proud of that, you know? So yeah, keep that in mind, okay? You're allowed to speak your truth. You're allowed to say what you need to say, okay? It's your story. Own that shit. Don't let anyone else own your story but you. And that's that on that. All right, well, that is all. As always, if you feel it in your heart to support your girl, subscribe, do all the things. If you don't feel it in your heart, don't do it. Literally, don't. You know what I mean? You gotta do what you do for you. But I'm grateful that you're here either way. Okay? Well, I will see you on the next one, hopefully, right? Yeah? Okay.